Today I'm playing with the Toadstool Garden 6x6 DSP from Stampin' Up. This little collection was part of the Celebration promotion back in February of 2025, and now it's available to purchase in the last chance section of my website. Since it's double-sided, I've already flipped the papers so you can see both sides. I'm documenting 3 pictures today of my son and his friends all dressed up for an after-grad safe party. The theme was tight and bright, and with those outfits, I think this collection's bold, playful colors are going to be a perfect match. I'll be creating a fun, easy single page layout to fit the feel of these photos. Bright and bold. Right away, I'm going to set aside any of the mushroom themed DSP as well as any with fresh freesia as the main color. I'll probably skip this pink plaid too. Love the color, but plaid isn't quite the vibe that I'm going for here. That leaves me with these patterns. And although I do love a good stripe, I'm leaning towards the swirly, kind of colorful one along with the white and pink, connected dots. Both really capture that carefree, fun energy in the pictures. So I'm starting with white Willow cardstock for my base. With so many bold colors, the white gives the eye a kind of that place to rest. For my photo placement, my favorite shot of the boys is going to go on the left. So this one measures 5 by 4. Next to it, I'll place a 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 photo, so just under 4 by 4. And underneath that, I have a smaller one that's 3 3/4 by 2. Normally, I wouldn't put such a bold pattern directly behind my photos. Now, it can feel distracting, but today I am throwing caution to the wind, and I think a full band of chaos behind them is perfect since the photos themselves are pretty calm. The boys are just standing around or, they're waiting to get on the bus. Now, I print my pictures at home with a white borders. Now, since I don't have permission from all of the boys, you're going to notice little sticky note hearts covering their faces. To balance things out, I'm going to tuck that pink and white dotted DSP behind, running it across the top and the bottom of that swirly paper. There's quite a bit of pink on this page, so for contrast, I want to bring in a strip of Granny Apple Green cardstock. I'm using the lighter side of the two-tone cardstock, and I'm thinking I'll tuck that just behind the pink and white piece, stepping it in slightly. Luckily, the scrap I have on hand is already the perfect width. I'll add another strip at the bottom too. So my youngest son, Evan, who's kind of right in the middle of this photo, he is wearing a black, yes, Barbie t-shirt with pink shorts. I think a touch of black on the page will kind of help pull everything together. I'm thinking a thin black frame should do the trick. Yeah, I like how that looks. So I'm going to commit to it. I'll pop off camera to trim things down, and then I'll be back with measurements and my next steps. Here I'm showing you that I gutted the center of the black cardstock so that I can save it for a future project. For now, I've left the 2 swirly DSP pieces at a full 6x6. I'm not sure yet if I'll kind of set them in or if I'm going to run them the full length of the white cardstock. So I'll leave them full for now. Next, I cut 2 pieces at 1x6 and 2 at 2x6. The 2-inch strips are going to go at the top. I'll trim the width down once I've decided exactly how far to set them in on each side. I hope that makes sense. The 1-inch strips are for the bottom. Keep in mind, these measurements won't necessarily be the final ones you'll see on the page, since I'll be tucking them under the layers. I repeated the same process for the green cardstock. These pieces are 2x9 and 1x9. That's just the width the cardstock was already cut to. To help the photos stand out more and to bring in just a touch more black, I cut a large black mat for the 2 photos on the right, and then I gave the focal photo on the left a double mat with Melon, Mambo, and black cardstock. Each mat measures approximately 1/8 of an inch bigger than the next. I'm just going to take a minute to ink the edges with black. It's a small step, but I really like the definition it adds. Since most of these pieces will be tucked under, I won't bother going all the way around each piece. I love that I was able to get my hands on these photos. The boys got ready at one of Evan's friend's house, so I wasn't able to get my own small group shot, the one on the right. Now, as for the other 2, these were while they were waiting to get onto the bus, and they were sent to me by another parent. So thank you, my friends, for thinking of me. On the 6-inch strips, I'm only inking the 2 outside edges so that once they're on the page, they'll blend together and look like one solid strip. Evan's going into grade 12 this year. I don't know where this time has gone. I have to be honest, I am really happy I'm not caught up on documenting my photos because it feels like yesterday both my boys were in elementary school. Now, as I work on those pages, I get to look back and kind of relive those moments all over again. I have to say, I really liked Evan's Barbie t-shirt. But sadly, it was way too big for me. You may have noticed I'm not placing the inked papers straight onto the base yet. I like to give them a chance to dry before setting them back into place. I also pushed my layout off to the side. I've learned the hard way that black ink can transfer very easily onto white cardstock, either from the little bits of the sponge or from putting damp pieces down too quickly. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. I've got everything into place, but nothing is fully attached yet. To figure out how much to trim from the 6-inch strips, I'm first measuring how far in I want them to sit from the base edge. I'm thinking about 1/2 inch. I'll line up each piece and check where it overlaps, and then I'll trim off the excess. It looks like it's working out to be 1¼ inches of overlap, but I'm only going to cut 1 inch off of one paper strip. This way I'll have a little bit of wiggle room. For the middle section, I cut off the full 1/4 inch because I didn't want any overlap there. Most of the seams will be covered, so if there's any kind of gap, no one will really notice in the end. Now, I do have a small seam showing, but luckily the photos did a great job covering it up. For embellishments, I'm going with stars. These nested dies are from my stash, and I'm pulling colors straight from the collection as well as the photos. I have Granny Apple Green, Pretty in Pink, Azure Afternoon, Melon Mambo, and Pumpkin Pie. At first, I thought about adding, other 80s style elements like triangles, squiggly lines, maybe even like some music icons like a boombox or tapes. But since the pattern paper I chose is already so bold, I decided to keep it simple with just the stars. I'm going to cut a mix of solid stars and outline stars in different sizes. I probably won't use the biggest star shape, but I want a variety of sizes to play with. Now that I have a good mix of stars, I decided to step them up. I'm using the month by month stamp set from the July virtual crop kit. There's a large-ish star with some stripes, a medium outline star, and this really tiny star here. I loved that retreat. I came away with so many new ideas and techniques. For those of you that have, attended the retreat, I hope that you took away from it as much as I did. I'm using 3 different star stamps here in coordinating inks for a tone-on-tone look. So these stamps did not arrive in the DVD kind of case, but I had a spare one to store them in. Working on a scrap copy paper, I'm starting with the orange star on the light side of the cardstock. I'll use the outline star stamp. Let me just grab my foam mat to stamp on, just to have a better working surface. When doing something like this, I like to stamp off the edge and rotate the stamp a little bit as I go. Although with the star shape, the direction doesn't matter as much. If you don't have this stamp set, any star stamps would work. Just try to kind of mix up the sizes if you can. I'll stamp a few here with you and then I'll finish the rest off camera. So that gave me the look I was hoping for. I'm not sure if you can see it clearly on camera, so I'll hold it up for a better look. Not perfect, but that's part of the fun. Let's try Azure Afternoon with the smallest star. I forgot to mention I always test stamp on a scrap first. Whoops, I got a little ink on the block. I'll just use my thumb and clean it. Again, I stamp off the edges and I rotate the stamp so that all the points aren't facing in the same direction. I won't stamp on every star, but I am going to ink the edges in black to help them stand out. While I've got the stamps out, I'm also adding a border along the bottom of the green cardstock for some extra visual interest. I'm using Granny Apple Green ink. Let me just tuck the same scrap piece of paper under the green cardstock to protect my base. I'll grab my ink pad and move the photos out of the way. I'm starting by stamping off the edge. I'm just going to line the stamp up with the bottom edge of the cardstock and make sure that it's positioned where I want it. I'm also checking that the block is clean and free from any ink. Standing while I stamp gives me a better angle and a little bit more control. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. A little imperfection just adds personality. I really love how a small stamp detail like this can pull the layout together, and it's just fun to experiment as you go. Now I'm ready to tuck the stars around the layout, creating a visual triangle around the pictures. I am going to spread the colors out and I'm just moving pieces kind of here and there until I'm happy with the balance. I did speed this up quite a bit, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how I approach this part of the process. For my title, I'm going with tight and bright. That was the party theme, so it seems like a good choice. I'm starting with the word tight. Using the Alphabet a la Mode dies, I'm just going to set the letters in place to see how it looks. Now I'm envisioning the rest of the title stamped on one of the stars beside the word tight. I dug through my Christmas stamps and I found an old Stampin' Up set called Endless Wishes. It actually has "and bright" in in teeny tiny writing. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but I think I can make it work. I started by cutting the letters in Azure Afternoon. I tested that off camera and I didn't love it. It's not quite the look I wanted. Then I tried Pretty in Pink to match Evan's shorts. But it's way too light, and as you can see, it kind of disappears into the background. Finally, black. Now that gives me that pop I was looking for, and it's much better. I do need to recut the G. I'm not sure what happened there, but while I'm at it, I'll cut a few extra of each letter so that I can glue them together and stack them up for more dimension. Off camera, I stamped and bright onto a orange star. I also stamped the burst kind of image on one of the Melon Mambo stars, as well as behind the words and bright, just to help it pop a little bit more. The title still felt like it needed something extra. When I'm not sure what that is, I usually turn to one of my go-to add-ons. So like a shape, a banner, or a tag. This was one of the 6x6 pattern papers I had pulled out earlier because of the colors and all the mushrooms on it. But the B side reminds me of the concrete sidewalks the boys are standing on. So I cut a few tags from that pattern, as well as one from white cardstock. And I'm going to layer them behind the title. I like how adding a simple tag can help anchor the title and tie the whole layout together. They add a little shape and some layering without taking up too much space. I'm trimming off the bottom portion of this tag because you're not going to see it, and it'll help it fit behind the layers a bit better. Now I'm debating, should the star go in front of the photo or behind it? I think in front. I do like a good mix of embellishments kind of tucked behind and layered on top of my photos. It adds more interest and dimension to the layout. I really like the tags there. They give the title more presence, and bonus, I was able to bring in more pattern paper. Now, since I have this extra tag shape, I think I'll add it to the cluster here on the right. Yeah, that's fun. So these are the nested essential dies. And this little banner shape is also one of my go-tos. I'm using the second smallest die to cut more of the concrete pattern paper, as well as one from white cardstock. I don't have a lot to journal, just kind of like the what, and I think I'll add the date somewhere else on the layout. So I stamped lines on the white banner using the Love This Moment stamp set. Unfortunately, it is no longer available. And I added the word details with black ink. And that's going to get tucked under the picture right about here. I like to add little verbal details to my layouts to help tell the story. Lately, I've been using the Celebrate Together stamp set a lot. I love how you can customize the color of this arrow or tab design and then stamp any word or phrase on it. This one says best friends. I've stamped that in black ink on a granny apple green arrow. Then I pulled out a close to my heart stamp from my stash called Zoe. There's a sentiment on there that says looking good, and I stamped that onto a pumpkin pie arrow, which I'll place right here. Next up, I'll stamp a little curved arrow from the Love This Moment set in black ink, pointing towards the and bright on the star. A subtle way to draw your eye there. I think it's going to be a fun little detail. For the finishing touches, I'm using the neutral matte dots. I'm only using the black ones, and I'm scattering them around the clusters and the title in groups of 3. There are 2 sizes, and I'm using a mix of both. Off camera, I stamped a camera from the same Zoe stamp set I used before from Close to My Heart in black on white cardstock to repeat those colors in the cluster on the right. I'm really happy with how this layout came together. The bold colors, playful stars, and layered tags capture the energy of the boys and the party perfectly. Even though it's a bit chaotic, all the elements work together to create a fun, lively 80s inspired page. If you enjoyed this video, maybe not to recreate the design exactly, but if it inspired you to get into your craft room or crafty space, play and have some fun, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you join my crafty community. I post a new video every Wednesday, plus the occasional Friday. So as you can see, I changed the title. I just was not happy with the stamped and bright. It was so small, even with the little arrow pointing it, I still felt like it wasn't very noticeable, and it just looked like the title was tight. So anyway, I turned to my Cricut. I used the print that cut feature for the words, and the font is called Sunset Beach. This is something I found for free on defont.com. Now I printed it in black and white with, the white offset black words. And then I layered the blue letters that I had cut earlier on top, right on top of the black ones. So now there's even more dimension to that. And I just like that so much better. I added some doodly lines, and I used just a white paint pen for that. Here's a closer look of all the stars and how the title looks now. Much better. I'm really happy with it. It's bold enough. It stands out, but I still feel like, the photos still shine. I love the little details that we added with the arrows, with the words in them looking good, and best friends. And of course, all the stamped details on the stars. I love the added stamped border down there. And I just like how this is all pulled together for a really nice, bright, fun, finished look. I really feel like this layout kind of gives you a snapshot of the fun, carefree vibe of the night. So thank you so much for joining me today. I had such a great time playing with the Toadstool Garden DSP, and of course bringing these photos to life. I hope that this video has inspired you to maybe grab your supplies and create something fun, no matter what the theme is. So for still shots of this layout and others, you head over to my Instagram, and here's a video I think you'll enjoy watching next. Until then, keep telling your stories one page at a time. Thanks.